Imagine we're using modern German transcendental philosophy as an example. What does philosophy, as Immanuel Kant would say, really study? It's all about figuring out what creates the groundwork for our experiences to happen. This groundwork isn't something we can touch, taste, or see. It's not an object that we can directly experience. Instead, it's the force that makes experiences possible in the first place. But here's the catch: it's not something we can observe with our senses. It's beyond the realm of our direct perception. How does philosophy do it? Is it all about observing and experimenting? Nah, it's more about speculation. Philosophy encourages us to dive into speculative thinking and helps us figure out the very basis of our experiences. Let me break it down for you. We humans have gathered a ton of knowledge about nature and society over time, but here's the kicker: we often don't know where all those natural and social experiences really come from. It's only when a nation starts delving into philosophy that they begin to question the foundations of these experiences. And that's when the real intellectual journey kicks off. Only a few nations around the world have come up with their own philosophical ideas, and guess what? They don't always follow the European philosophical mold. Back in the 5th century BC, these four badass nations unleashed unique ways of thinking upon humanity. Let's break it down. The Chinese nation, around that time, during what we call the pre-Qin era, gave us the likes of Confucius and Laozi, who shared their wisdom with the world. Ancient Greece, during that same era, blessed us with the intellectual powerhouses Socrates and Plato. Then we have ancient India, rocking the scene with Gautama Buddha and the birth of Buddhist philosophy. And let's not forget ancient Israel, where a bunch of early Jewish prophets, whose names have sadly slipped through the cracks, set the stage for Eastern Jewish thought. Together, they opened up new frontiers of philosophical exploration. Remember those four realms of human thought we talked about? They're the real deal, no doubt about it. And guess what? They all boil down to philosophy. Even Judaism, at its core, is rooted in deep philosophical thinking. And you know what else? The teachings of Gautama Buddha in Buddhist philosophy? Yeah, you got it, philosophical to the core. Now, let's talk about ancient Greece. They've always been hailed as the OGs of philosophy, the ones who started it all. But here's the thing: it's more about their form becoming the standard form for philosophical theories. It's like Eurocentrism, always giving Greece all the credit. But that's not cool. Now, shifting gears to Confucianism and Taoism in China. Deep down, they're all about Chinese philosophical thought. Philosophical thought came before religion. And that's where we see the essential connection between religion and philosophy. They go hand in hand, my friend. The language of religion is not the language of theory, it is the language of faith. But the core of this faith is still a kind of philosophical thought. Philosophy and religion, along with art, are the naked expressions of human thought in different forms. They are not used to prescribe external things, to form scientific or empirical knowledge. Rather, they are used to speak about themselves. Human thought speaks for itself through philosophy, religion, and art. You know what Nietzsche said, right? That dude had a way with words. He said, "What we find in things is actually what we already believed and put into them. We fill them up with art and religion, and then we extract it all and call it science." But here's the kicker: in this age of scientific materialism, most folks don't quite grasp this concept. We tend to think that science is all about studying nature and resources, with no room for beliefs, faith, or imagination. We see it as the pinnacle of pure rational knowledge. But here's the real deal: pure rational knowledge actually needs a starting point. It assumes that things have already been shaped by our practical experiences with them. And then we take those preconceived notions and turn them into scientific theories. That's how we roll in the world of science. It's not rocket science, bro. Think about it. When did people start smelting metals? Way back in the Bronze Age, man. Chemistry wasn't even a thing back then, but they still figured out how to make bronze. So, what's the deal with chemistry? Before chemistry came into play, peeps were already getting down with substances through metallurgy, alchemy, or even following the Taoist crafts in China. They had their own methods, you know. Chemistry came along to explain all that jazz. But here's the kicker: when chemistry describes the chemical properties of natural substances, it kinda assumes that those properties are part of the substances themselves. But in reality, they're just ways we humans interact with those substances. Philosophy is all about uncovering the truth behind it all. Most of you are diving into the world of science, and let's be real, not many of you are majoring in philosophy. It's awesome to focus on science, but it's also important to have a philosophical perspective. Philosophy students should also dip their toes into natural and social sciences to get a solid grip on philosophical theories. So, here's the deal: if you graduate with a bachelor's degree and don't plan on pursuing philosophy in grad school, you can think about going for a specific scientific field. Trust me, with a little effort, you'll rock that entrance exam. Once you finish the first chapter of the science textbook, you'll pretty much have it down. You'll understand the prerequisites, methods, and foundations of that field because you've got that philosophical reasoning power, and you already know the prerequisites and foundations of that scientific discipline. Alright, I might be a bit biased here, bragging about philosophy, right? But hey, philosophy is pretty awesome, ain't it? What the heck is philosophy, you ask? It's like that old saying, Jiang Taigong, 11th century BCE, goes fishing, and those who want to be the catch will take the bait. It's this classy field of study called philosophy. Why is it fancy? Because it has no commercial value, man. It's got no practical value, and that's what makes it all fancy and noble. There are plenty of sciences out there that have practical value. If we're all wrapped up in practical knowledge all the time, what do we have left for deep thinking, man? How do we figure out our paths in life and find meaning? Some folks have pondered over these things, and we call them philosophers. Philosophers dive deep into these questions, but don't go thinking philosophy is just for those philosophers. Nah, man, philosophy is for everyone. It's everyone's business. So, what the heck does philosophy study? I just mentioned that it looks into the basic stuff that makes experiences possible. And get this, we can't grasp this foundation through our senses. Nah, we gotta contemplate our experiences to discover it. So, where does this foundation come from? It comes straight from our human minds. In the end, philosophy is all about exploring our minds. How our minds make sense of the world shapes the knowledge we humans create. Whether it's through science, religion, or art, it all stems from our understanding of the mind, man. It's like this concept in Buddhism, they call it one mind, two doors. It's pretty wild, man. It's still the same mind, but it's got these two doors, you dig? One door is all about birth and death, and the other door is all about tapping into ultimate reality. There's this ancient text called the Awakening of Faith in the Mahayana that dives deep into this stuff. It's a classic in Buddhism, talking about how our minds have these two doors. What's up with this birth and death door? It's about our ability to perceive and feel all sorts of experiences from the external world, man. We're aware of them, we feel them, and we can even talk about them. But why do we call it the birth and death door when it comes to these experiences with external stuff? Well, it's because everything we experience is born and eventually dies, dude. Like, think about it, an apple will rot, right? Even a tough rock gets worn down by water and weather over time. All natural things go through cycles of being born and dying. When we open the door to these specific experiences with things from the outside world, that's what we mean by opening the birth and death door. But here's the thing, man. The human mind isn't just about gathering experiences and knowledge of the outside world. It's got another trick up its sleeve. It can open the door to ultimate reality. And by ultimate reality, I mean seeing things as they truly are, getting to the core essence of stuff. And guess what? The human mind has the power to open that door. When we crack it open, we tap into the mind's boundless potential. We can grasp infinite truths, absolute truths, man. It's mind-blowing. Opening the birth and death door is like peeping into the limited side of our minds. Behind that door, everything we see and experience is all about the cycle of life and death. It's all temporary and has an expiration date. But, bro, when we swing open the ultimate reality door, it's a whole different story. It's all about tapping into the essence and truth that lies beneath these fleeting experiences. It's about that unchanging core, that timeless truth, you feel me? And when we open that door, man, it uncovers the infinite side of our minds. It's like unlocking our mind's full potential, dude. By opening two doors with one mind, we uncover its infinite aspect. Our minds are a mix of both limited and boundless potential. But here's the deal, bro, if our minds weren't infinite, if they didn't have this endless side, we would be stuck in a world of limited sensory experiences. We would never discover things like ultrasonic waves, right? I mean, you can't hear those bad boys, right? And you can't see infrared or ultraviolet light either, but guess what? We've figured out they exist, dude. Ultrasonic waves, infrared, and ultraviolet light, they're all out there. How do we know? Well, it's all thanks to scientific theories, man. These theories rely on our mind's infinite capacity. And you know what? They're rooted in philosophical thinking. That's why we say philosophy explores the infinite nature of the mind.